What's up, book nerds? My name is Tara, and today I'm going to talk to you about audiobooks, including my own personal journey with coming to love and just voraciously devour audiobooks, as well as tips on starting with audiobooks if you've never read them before. So I am a pretty intense audiobook reader. I think I've read over 250 audiobooks in the past 7 or 8 years. So there's a lot that I have to say on this. I'm going to try to keep it down so that I don't bore you with all of the things that I could say. But I'll start by saying I started reading audiobooks in 2008. My foray into this came from podcasts. I listened to a lot of podcasts, ran out of podcasts to listen to. So I said, what's better than a podcast is a 9-hour long nonfiction audiobook. So those were my gateway books into reading audiobooks. I got my first Audible book in late 2008. At the time, I was in graduate school and teaching full-time, so I had a lot of things I needed to read, both for my 7th grade students and for my YA lit class that I was taking in school, and not a lot of time in which to get it all read. So eventually I was able to read shorter middle grades books in order to check those off of my list, and that kind of rolled into being able to read more and more classics and adult fiction, longer YA, and I found that was a format that really worked for me once I crossed over that bridge and figured out how to listen most effectively. In late 2010, I stopped listening to audiobooks on Audible because I found that there are so many other great places where you can get audiobooks. So, for example, I had started my blog at that time. I was able to review audiobooks for Simon & Schuster, and they would send those to me every month or so. So that was one way I got free books. But also just my good old-fashioned public library had excellent books on CD and books through Overdrive. So for 2 years, I existed completely on free audiobooks through those sources. When I started my PhD program again in 2000, or started grad school again in 2012, I again had a long commute and not a lot of free time for pleasure reading. So I picked back up my Audible account so that I was able to read the things that were on my TBR list that I really wasn't having the time to get to. So not just, oh, here's an interesting book, I guess I'll pick that up, but more like, I really, really want to read Gone Girl, and I cannot get the library copy soon enough, so I am willing to pay $14.99 in order to read Gone Girl and see what everybody else is talking about. Since that time in 2012, I've had my Audible account nonstop, getting 1 or 2 books a month, and it really is a format that works very well for my lifestyle. When I started in 2008, my Audible account was a little tedious because I had to download the books onto my computer and burn them to disk. But now, since 2012, I got an iPhone, and you can this got the built-in speakers, so I can set it anywhere and listen. It's made things so much easier. I download them directly to my phone and hit play, and I can listen anywhere, anytime that I want to. Sometimes it has to do with headphones, but it really lets me read in times of the day when I wasn't previously able to work in reading. So my favorite places, the places and times I tend to read the most, include when I'm at the gym. I'll put it on, on the treadmill, or when I go for a walk around the neighborhood. I will put it on definitely while I'm driving or commuting anywhere, whether it's me driving or riding the bus or however I'm choosing to get there. And then I read in the shower. I set the phone outside of the shower and I'll listen while I'm getting ready in the morning. I also read while I'm doing chores around the house. So the big reasons why, especially around the house, audiobooks are really nice is because they're just easy. It clearly allows me to read more than I would if I was just reading, when I could sit down with a physical book and tune out the world and not do anything else but read the book. And as sad as this is to admit, when you live alone, it does get a little maddening how silent the house can be sometimes. It at least gives some sort of noise, some sort of comforting non-silence thing happening as I go about these activities of my daily life. So if you are looking to get into audiobooks, you do not have to follow anybody's prescription for how to do it, but I do have some tips for you, especially if you've tried and not been able to get into them before. My first tip would be, like with me, genre was really important. I originally was thinking audiobooks would be Harry Potter or some sort of thing that I really wanted to read, and those actually don't work well for me in that format because I'm just as happy actually sitting down and physically reading those books. But there are other books that I might not do as well with in the print format, like nonfiction books. But as audiobooks, I really liked listening to them. So play around with genre a bit and see if there are things maybe outside of what you typically read that might work better for you as audiobooks than they do in print. My second tip, which might sound a little contrary to what you might believe, is to actually do something while you're reading. I found that if I'm just listening, I tend to zone out in the middle of the audiobook versus if I'm doing something that involves some of my attention, the audiobook can be then what I zone out to while I'm doing the task. The big example being driving is really easy for me to concentrate on both of those things at the same time, and doing chores around the house. In general, I cannot just sit and just listen to the audiobook. It really is helpful to do other things while I'm listening. My third tip is to start with free books. So check out what your library has through Overdrive. Check out what they have on CD. If you're a pretty established blogger or YouTuber or reviewer, you can go and see if there are people who can offer you up books to review for free in exchange for your fair and honest review. However, with that, I do recommend that you not just restrict yourself to free books. So don't be afraid to pay for books if that's really what you want to do. One thing that can be frustrating about getting free books is you don't always have the most choice in what you read. And some people, especially people who are mood readers, find it's a lot easier if they can just say, I really want to read Gone Girl right now, and the library doesn't have available, and clearly it's not up for review because it's already published. So I am willing to pay $14.99 to read this book in this format. And finally, one tip that really helped me was that you can change the speed of the playback on the audiobook if you're using the Audible app. And I think with the Overdrive app, you can do this too. So you can say, if the book is too slow, which is sometimes my problem, I read very quickly, I can set it to 1.5 or 2.0 speed, and the narrator will read much faster, and I'm able to get through the book much more quickly. And with this tip, and I know this sounds really strange, but sometimes when I put it on 1.5, it sounds too fast, or my brain just is not in the mode to catch up to that. So I'll put it on like 3.0 and it goes so fast, and I'll listen to that for a minute or two and then dial it back down to the 1.5, at which point the 1.5 sounds blissfully amazingly slow, and then I can continue reading at that speed. And obviously, if you don't want to read the books really fast, you don't have to do that. But for me, sometimes I would read audiobooks that just wanted to stab things because they were going so slowly. So that helped get it to a place that was more at the speed of where my brain wanted it to be. So that's a little taste into my feelings about audiobooks. Let me know below if you have feelings about audiobooks, what audiobooks you've loved. Do you love audiobooks? Do you hate audiobooks in general? How do you listen? What tips work for you? Etc., etc., etc. And as always, book nerds, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.